Eastern Snowmobile Racing Hall of Fame induction ceremony. We're inducting 5 more pioneers of the sport here today. And we're so happy to see that everybody came to this event. It means a lot to those who raced back then, and they had support back years ago, and it's nice to see the support is still here. We're excited that this year we're going to induct our second lady racer, Miss Diane Baker. And we're also welcoming the complete first drivers and owner of Team A-Bold is here today with us. That was the winningest independent snowmobile racing team in the history of the sport, and they're all here today. It's a historic time. We have a 50-50 raffle over there by that umbrella in front of the museum, so please buy some tickets to the 50-50 raffle when you can. We have t-shirts, and we also are offering a 5-box set DVD of the 5 events that we're holding here. We're just taking orders today for that. We're just taking pre-orders, and it's going to include a lot of interviews of these guys in every induction that we had. And so we're going to put that together. It's a 5 DVD set. I think we're going to get maybe like $50 for it, but there's a lot of stuff that's going to be included in it. Mike LaPierre here, our camera guy, is going to do that for us. He's so good at that, and he's been wonderful to the Hall of Fame. So, but first, we need to address what today, September 11th, means to all of us. Every one of us who remembers that morning 20 years ago can also remember exactly where we were when those planes hit the World Trade Center buildings and forever changed our American way of life. We walk through metal detectors at airports and federal buildings. We are patted down, we empty our pockets, and then we're scanned once more. But there is one thing for sure. Despite the terrorists' best efforts, America is still here. And let's please now have a moment of silence for the victims of 9/11, for our troops abroad, for Bob Eastman, for Yvonne de Hamel, and for all of those special people who are no longer with us. 6 years ago, Paul Crane and I had an idea. That idea was to create an Eastern Hall of Fame for those top early racers who were never recognized for their achievements in snowmobile racing. I came up with the name New England Snowmobile Racing Hall of Fame. Paul said, "Midge, there's just one small problem." I asked, "What's that?" He said, "You should change it to the Eastern Snowmobile Racing Hall of Fame to cover New York State." And of course he was right. At our inauguration, at our first inaugural induction ceremony in 2017, we inducted 4 members to the Eastern Snowmobile Racing Hall of Fame: Bob Clark, Bruce Dunham, Bob Martin, and Conrad Rollins. We wanted to induct 5 members. There was one other candidate which Paul and I wanted for the first induction. Unfortunately, he left for Florida before I could get his race record information. But we were able to induct Mr. Calvin Reynolds the following year in 2018. At first, we had 5 members on the board of directors to qualify as a nonprofit organization. However, we've since added 2 more members. Last year, during the pandemic, we had to cancel our spring induction ceremony, rescheduling it for September 19th as an outdoor ceremony. This not only gave us more time to complete the plaques of 2 more inductees, bringing them to a total of 7 for 2021, we also decided that having it in the fall is so much better. And don't you guys agree? Our 2021 inductees were George Gordon, Paul LaMontagne, Tom Peters, Roger Poulin, Judy Rinaldi, Joe Wilkinson, and Ted Wynot. Before we begin our ceremony, there are people we need to thank. First and foremost, this Hall of Fame of ours wouldn't have a home without the generosity of Mr. Paul Crane. I've known Paul for over 60 years, and I'm proud to call him a friend. to his wife Marilyn for supporting us with this Hall of Fame we started 5 years ago. And I especially want to thank my wife Glenda for also supporting us in this. And I just plain could not do this without her help. Greg, our cameraman, from the very beginning, he was here from the very beginning, the very first event. I asked him if he could be our camera guy, and he's been our camera guy ever since. And he has helped us. He's provided this canopy, this beautiful flooring, and he helps in any way he can. His role, to put it mildly, is huge. Also, a big thank you to Alan Cormier for this great sound system we have here today. Bruce Borovach has been working on getting new candidates and their race records, making new contacts every day, and no two men could keep up with his pace. He's doing an incredible job. Where is Bruce? Where'd he go?
Here he is.
Hey, Bruce. Bruce, Bob Martin, and Fred Davis have been working overtime on getting our #1 bib holder for the 1973 season, Frank Dodge, here to attend our ceremony. Please give Frank a big hand. Where's Frank? Frank Dodge, stand up, please. I was scared to watch Frank drive, really. We need to give a big hand to those guys that got him here. Fred Davis, Bruce, Bob Martin, they all worked hard to get Frank here, and he's going to be coming back. And he's going to be sitting in this front row at some point. And please give a nice round of applause to Mark Belanger, Kevin Sweetie, Jerry McGee, and everyone who brought their race sleds here today. Paul Belfay brought in a beautiful Mercury Snow Twister, and I didn't get your name, but he brought in the 1971 Arctic Cat that Steve Fenoff raced to victory here at the 1971 Grand Prix. That set's over there. It's beautiful sleds. Okay, Spencer Beatty and Lucas Nast, would you please come forward here to the podium? I'm going to introduce to you folks the new batch of drivers we have here in the East. Lancaster was always known for having top snowmobile drivers. Come on over here to my left, guys. Come on over here. So we had Bobby Ford and Bobby Martin, Frank Dodge. We had some big name drivers here in the East. Timmy White. There was a bunch. And I'd like to introduce you to Lucas Nast and Spencer Beatty, who have been racing in the last few years. Lucas took 10th at the Eagle River World Championship last year in the vintage class with a screaming Arctic Cat. And Spencer has been campaigning, I think, a Yamaha one year, and then he had a Polaris 3-cylinder last year that he raced in the Snow Derby. And these guys are your top drivers so far this year. And so, Spencer, how do you think you're going to do at Eagle River this year?
I think we're going to do pretty good. We've been putting a lot of hours in every weekend, just building new stuff. Couldn't do it without Rusty, Spencer, and the guys that come every weekend and help. So I think we're going to be, our goal is to do top 5 in the WC this year for the World Championship and go to Eganville, Ontario if the borders open, and Boonville, New York, and try to do some local races still because we like to keep it around here. So.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, if you guys watched him go last year at Eagle River, I think you won the Friday night shootout with that thing, didn't you?
No. Yeah, we led 5 laps. We for the Woody's Friday Night Thunder, they take it starts by Sweet 16. Top 16 drivers come down. You race quarterfinals, semifinals all weekend, and then they come down to the top 16, 2 heats 8, and then top 4 goes down to the Friday Night Thunder, which is top 8, and then the winner of that goes automatically to the World Championship. So we led 5 laps of that and just racing. So
you did well. You did well, brother. Yeah, he had a screaming Arctic Cat. This year, though, he's going to try it with a Polaris.
Yeah, we're going blue. We're going blue this year, so we're pretty excited.
Spencer, your dad was a chairman of the Grand Prix that we had, the 50th reunion, and the 2 other races since, and you were on the board. Every night we had a meeting. Spencer Beatty was there with his brother Tyler, and they were such a big help at getting those Grand Prix races going. And I wish we could do more, but that's unfortunate. But anyway, his grandfather was one of the original Grand Prix chairmen at some of the first Grand Prix with Bob Clark. And so this family, the Beatty family, has been steep in snowmobile racing and everything about snowmobiling. So Spencer, how do you think you're going to do this year? You're going to run Formula 500?
Yeah, going to run Formula 500 and 340 Supermod.
So who's doing the wrenching for you this year?
Be Lucas and Rusty.
Keep our crew small.
Yeah, they're going to do all right. They have some top shelf equipment. I've seen it. It's an unbelievable shop they have over there, and I think they'll do very well. So give these guys a big hand and wish them luck.
Come on, guys.
Yeah, we got to do pictures, guys. It's a shame, but we have to do it.
Did you want to be in the center? You should be in the center.
Oh yeah, put you in the center. Put me in front. You might as well be between two thorns.
If I'm in the back, they won't see me.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. All right, the wind just picked up, of course, special for me, so I can't keep my wakeboard straight here. All right, so we have other people that we have to thank too. Russ Swinton was a big help to get Joe Wilkinson and other people in this place. He helped us with their resumes, and Russ is our historian for the Eastern Snowmobile Racing Hall of Fame because of his knowledge of what went on back then. And we have something we want to give Russ, if he would come to the podium right now, please. The Board of Directors of the Eastern Snowmobile Racing Hall of Fame wish to thank Mr. Russ Swinton for his many hours of compiling race records of individuals for whom the Eastern Snowmobile Racing Hall of Fame Board of Directors were selecting as possible candidates for future induction. Thank you very much, Russ, for helping us out. Really, you've been a big help. We appreciate it. These guys, you know, there's no money involved in any of this stuff. I tried to tell my wife when we started this Hall of Fame thing, you know, she says, do you realize how much we're paying for these plaques? I says, hon, look, some people hunt, okay, and, you know, they'll go out and they'll buy a Weatherby hunting rifle for $3,000, and they'll hunt, and that's their hobby. I don't hunt. This is my hobby, and she didn't buy it. Let me tell you, this is no hobby. This is our passion. It's Russ's passion, it's Paul's passion, it's Greg's passion, it's Mike's passion, my wife's passion. This is our passion. This is what we do. So, thank you very much, Russ. We have others. I don't know if Rick Simula came here today or not. Rick was a big help getting our Eastern Snowmobile Racing Hall of Fame page going. I got a phone call about 3-4 years ago. He wanted to know if he could start a page for us. I didn't know anything about it. So I said, yeah. I said, if you'd like to. So here it is. If Rick is here, I'd like him to come up to the podium. If he isn't, we'll send him this. The Board of Directors of the Eastern Snowmobile Racing Hall of Fame wish to thank Mr. Richard Simula for his visionary idea of not only developing an Eastern Snowmobile Racing Hall of Fame Facebook page, but spending so much of his time and effort on making it one of the finest outlets on social media. And Rick has got his own page now, and we started another page with Mike LaPierre as the administrator, but Rick started the whole thing, and he did a wonderful job. Did a great job. Also, before I forget it, Mike LaPierre is doing a podcast here today, and we're probably, 3,000-4,000 people might be watching this right now. Maybe Rick is.
Yeah, we've got over 100 right now.
Yeah.
It's climbing.
How many?
Over 100 right now and climbing.
All right, yeah, so, yeah. Who knows how many? And not only that, you can run that, right, 3 or 4 different times, in the next month or so people won't miss it.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and I encourage people to share it on their profile for everyone to see.
Yeah, so that's kind of neat. All right, I know she's here because I caught a glimpse of her. Would Meredith Audette please come to the podium? Meredith Audette, come on up here, please. Meredith has been here, I think you came to the first one. And come over here, get over here. All right. The Board of Directors. Eat your heart out, Calvin. All right. The Board of Directors of the Eastern Snowmobile Racing Hall of Fame wish to thank Ms. Meredith Audette for her continued support of the Eastern Snowmobile Racing Hall of Fame by not only taking hundreds of beautiful photographs of each event and every event that we've ever had, but also sharing them willingly with us. And I really appreciate everything you've done. And I know. So there.
Thank you, man.
All right.
My pleasure.
We really appreciate it, Meredith.
Go.
And finally, in a black folder, because I know he was secretly an Arctic Cat fan, and he tries not to show it, but I know his true colors. Mike LaPierre, please come up here, would you? Mike, I think it was, 2018? I think you came in. We did our first one. We had 3 people putting the thing on, Paul, me, and Greg over there. He was manning the camera, and we might have had 50 people, maybe, in there, all told, inside the museum. And it just kept getting bigger every year. But in 2018, this gentleman shows up, and he walks up, and he said, Mr. Rosenberg, he said, do you think it might be okay if I took a video of this event? And I said, yeah, you could stand over there near Greg and do that. And then he comes up to me and he said, Mr. Rosenberg, do you think it might be okay if I did some interviews? And I says, no, of course you can't interview these guys, they're mine. Well, he did anyway. He interviewed Calvin, and I think Paul Montang, and he did a great job. He's doing a wonderful job. He knows what he's doing because he was in broadcasting. He was on radio and stuff like that years ago. So, in this electrical, this stuff on the internet and stuff, he's an expert at. So, for the Board of Directors of the Eastern Snowmobile Racing Hall of Fame, wish to thank, oh, wrong one, wrong one. I got another black one here. That one there was Rick's. He's black too. Board of Directors of the Eastern Snowmobile Racing Hall of Fame wish to thank Mr. Mike LaPierre for his continued support of the Eastern Snowmobile Racing Hall of Fame and his many countless hours of promoting the great sport of vintage snowmobiling. Mike LaPierre, everything you do, we just can't thank you enough, sir. Really. We can't do this without Mike now. I don't know how we did it before, but we certainly can't do it without Mike now. So, yes, and Mike wants to say a few words about his podcast and maybe mention that 5 DVD set that you...
Yeah, we're going live right now on the internet. We're simulcasting in 8 different places on Facebook and YouTube. And if you've got a cell phone here today and want to watch it on the cell phone at the same time, you're welcome to do that. All you have to do is search for 2021 ESRHOF, that's Eastern Snowmobile Racing Hall of Fame, Induction Ceremony, and it should come right up. You can also go to the Eastern Snowmobile Racing Hall of Fame Facebook group. It's airing live on there. It's 8 different places on Facebook and YouTube. And I do ask a favor of anyone who's watching this on the internet, either at home or here, as people are being inducted, please make comments in the comment section to compliment them. That really goes a long way. And I'm over here, I'll be able to pop that up on the screen live as it happens. And also, if you can share this on your profile or share this with anyone who happens to be watching on social media, either now during the event or if you get home and want to look at it, if you can share it to help get the word out, it helps everything we're doing here with the Hall of Fame. And also, lastly, just a quick plug, I do a live Vintage Snowmobile podcast every Thursday night. Just search for Vintage Snowmobile Podcast on Facebook or YouTube. You'll find it. There were almost 20 episodes last fall. I've been running reruns over the summer, but I'm going to start going live again in October. I'd love it if you could join us. And I thank you so much. Thank you for thanking me, by the way.
Thank you very much, Mike, for everything you do. The podcast, I think we have, Larry Berman might be on that watching now. Kenny Young from New York, #1 driver in 71, might be watching us now. There's several people that couldn't make it here today that might be watching this podcast. So this is a wonderful venue thing that we've got going there because of, COVID and all that kind of stuff. There's another guy that I would like you guys to meet, and his trophies in the museum, if you want to see it. It was the first year. It was in 1965, and it was the first year that they called our trophies Kilkenny Cups. Before that, they called them motorized toboggan racing, and whatever the class was, in first, second, third, and so on. But in '65, they started calling him the Kilkenny Cup. And Mr. Dave Bennett over there won Class A in 1965 at 17 years old. And he had competition. He had Bobby Fortin, he had Bill Buckland, Timmy White. He had some pretty good competition. But that little 8 horse was screaming that day, and Dave was pretty capable. Dave, would you come down here, please? I know he's going to kick my butt afterwards, but I got to get him down here. Dave, you didn't know much about Dave because I'll tell you what. After high school, Dave went where it wasn't very cold. Dave was, it rained a lot, didn't it? I think it rained a lot there where you went, yeah. And Dave is a veteran of the Vietnam War. And
Thank you for your service.
that little 8 horse that he drove to victory in 1965, he still has it. And his son Steve heard about our 50th reunion race back in 2014, and he says, well, Dad, he says, we ought to get that old 8 horse going and put that in the parade. No, we're not going to do that. Well, Steve did it anyway. And Dave, I have photos on Facebook of Dave out on the track, and Dave was wearing the period clothes that you guys wore back in 1965. Johnson Woolen Mills over in Vermont made all kinds of hunting clothes for you guys. And he was head to toe Johnson wool, and that's exactly the clothes they wore back then, and I got a photo of that. And besides that little 8-horse climbed Mount Washington. It was the first time that the Skidoo, now they climbed it I think at 61 on big old Polaris, rear engine Polarises, but in 1964 or 5, you guys climbed Mount Washington. It was the first time that Skidoo made it up there. And Dave was one of them with that little 8-horse that he won the race with. And not only that, you climbed Mount Cabot with it a couple times. Once. All right, that's all you wanted to do then, is once. If anybody ever tried climbing Mount Cabot just on foot, they would wonder how they got those sleds up to the top, but they did it. So, yeah, Dave, been a friend ever since we were little kids, I think. And really appreciate you coming today. And I wanted the people to see who raced back in the early days of the Grand Prix, and you did a good job. So give Dave a hand. Go have a seat, brother. All right. Well, Mr. Bill Bold, please. Hey, Bold, I made a mistake already. And Mrs. Abel, please come on. Yeah. I don't think he would have done what he did without your help. So that's a fact, right? All right. I usually have them seated when we read this, but what the heck? You guys want to see Bill Abold? This is a good way to see him right here. William Bill Abold, inducted into the Eastern Snowmobile Racing Hall of Fame 2021. Engine, chassis builder, team owner. Bill Abold began winning with rough snowmobiles in 1973 with driver Ron Hall. Team Abold is the only race team in history to win 3 Adirondack Cups. Ron Hall on a Rupp in 73, Ron Hall on an Autocat in 75. Ron Hall is the only guy that ever won it twice. And then Herb Yancey won it on an Autocat in 1978. I think that was an IFS. That was the first IFS. Bill's engine and chassis building prowess was never more evident than when Team Abold driver Wayne Chip Elwood, stricken with the flu, invited independent driver Herb Yancey to race his Mod 4 sled at the 1974 Snowmobile World Series in Eagle River, Wisconsin. Elwood's Cat, arguably the fastest 650 in the country, helped to provide him with the advantage he needed as Yancey became the first non-factory driver in history to win a Snow Pro race. Team Abold opened the 1975 season by sweeping all 4 Supermod classes, with the newest Team Abold member Herb Yancey capturing the Governor's Cup at Canaan, New Hampshire in December 1974. Herb Yancey also won the 440 class while racing in the PDC Series professional driver circuit, both days at Peterborough, Ontario in 1975. Ron Hall won his 17th consecutive race in the Supermod 1 class, taking home a Kilkenny Cup at the 1975 Lancaster Grand Prix and becoming the USA SSA Eastern Division Driver of the Year for 1975. For the 1976 season, Ron Hall wore gold bib number 1, Herb Yancey wore number 2, and Chip Elwood wore number 11, even after a horrific injury halfway through the season in 1975. Team Abold was one of a handful of teams chosen to race Ardic's new IFS Z-Bar suspension system in 1978. Herb Yancey was voted Driver of the Year at the 1978 Snowmobile World Series in West Yellowstone, Montana, driving this new sled. Team Abold has won 8 World Series number 1 place titles, plus 13 top 5 finishes, with 3 different drivers in 6 consecutive Snowmobile World Series between 1974 and 1979. From 1973 until 1980, Team Abold drivers Pat Abold, Chip Elwood, Ron Hall, Dave Heitzout, Ray Resnick, and Herb Yancey won more Eastern titles and championships than any other Eastern snowmobile race team in the history of the sport, thanks to their superb talents and the amazing talents of the one and only Bill Bold. This guy is a legend, folks. An absolute legend for all of us. And there's one on the wall just like that.
Well, I don't know what to say. I had a little speech I was going to give. Everything that I had in my speech kind of blew my speech. Yes. Not really. I think I can win it here. Okay. Everybody here, I want to congratulate and I want to thank you for coming. It's a I just never realized, in all the times that I spoke at different events and so on, what a great group you got. I mean, you guys work so hard, and I definitely want to give everybody a lot of thanks. Bruce, after many phone calls, I got a lot of information, but the most information I got was sitting right here today. If everybody could enjoy it as much as I'm enjoying it, you'd have the whole parking lot full of people. But you got a pretty good group today. You know, I come from a long history of racing, that's for sure. You can tell by my looks. We've had a racing family since we started, and part of our family had a group that Midge was talking about. Our whole race team was a team, and team was very, very important to us. And I'll tell you, I myself enjoyed every minute of the races. All the people we met, a lot of them here today, was impressive. But one of the most things that I respected and I learned a lot about was the induction. When Bruce called me that I was going to be inducted in the Hall of Fame this year, I was both excited and humbled to be a candidate. I was also very impressed with the history of the group of the special people that have already been indicted. I would like to thank three special people that I worked close with. I didn't know the rest of them too good. Would be Bruce, Rick, and Ed. These guys both talked to me several times and so on, and it was a pleasure. Thank you. Team Able was racing sleds about 5 years before the Arctic sponsorship. I started drag racing Scorpions in the summer of '69 and went to Rupp in '72. Rupp, New York was impressed and asked me to build a winter sled. One of the salesmen from Rupp, Fred Ives, asked me to call Ron Hall and ask him if he'd drive. And that's when Team Able got started. I think Ron was the first of our team to win the Grand Prix in Lancaster. He won the Bluebell Cup that year and the Northeastern Championship at Malone, and he ran with the Rupp. When I got the first Arctic sponsor from Miro, they asked me to contact Chuck Allwood. Now these guys become my personal friends. Yeah, they're like all family. To run the 440 and the 650 sleds. Now I had 8 sleds and 2 top drivers. Ron and Chip began to set records right away. After that, we won several races that Team Arctic was at. One in particular was the Weedsburg 50-lap championship. Chip set a track record that lasted 20 years. Ronnie, he won the 50-lapper with 4 laps in the lead. That was impressive. I couldn't get over it. We all went to dinner later, and Arctic came to pat me on the back, and I said, well, the first thing they said that kind of got me mad is, you should have Ronnie Hall to get on an exercise deal. And I thought to myself, 50 laps, 4 laps in the lead, you might better practice what you preach. Yeah. I didn't have a lot of couth in those days. Ron beat Arctic Factory and won by 4 laps, I said. We then were asked to run Eagle River Championship. Chip got the flu, and I asked Herb Yancey to run the Team 650. After his victory, I asked Chip if he would like to run with the race team. Herb, I'm sorry. And that's, no, I'm sorry. At Bangor, Maine, this left Herb and Ron to fight the battles. Some of their victories included 5 Snow Pro Series circuit wins, 8 World Series titles, 3 Adirondack Cups, 2 Eastern Championships, and several Drivers of the Year awards, and I can't remember them all, so forgive me. At 16 years old, my oldest son, Pat, jumped from the junior class to senior class. He was the youngest to ever qualify at Eagle River for the World Championship. He raced for 4 years before that, and by that time he became a pretty seasoned driver. He took a second place at 75 Wheatsport World Series and won both classes in the Malone Northeast Championships that year. He was ranked top 5 in the 340 class. I would also like to recognize 2 of the people that diligently worked on the sleds and kept everything in the tip-top condition at all times. Al Conklin and Charlie Hemans. They were my tech guys. And they not only did they work many hours on the sleds, they also stayed many hours in that old school bus that we used to drive to the races. The dedication of the team, and I want to emphasize that word team, has produced many wins and championships. Thank you. Special thanks to my family for all the times that they've been with me. And along with that, they always stayed, they always helped. I will cherish this day, and I'll just cherish it forever. Thank you, everybody that made this day possible. Thank you very much.
We gotta have photos. We gotta have photos. Get up there. Paper.
Yeah, get a photo. Come on.
Get over there, Kelly. Okay, where am I going?
Right over there with Midge, I think. Down with Midge. Follow Midge.
Thank you. Yeah. Gotta hold that up. I gotta have a little, I gotta say something. In this plaque here, I had a photo of Bill, and he had a real stern look on his face. And I love that photo because it gave it like, he was just, the task at hand was the concentration, of the day was in his face. And, well, family didn't like it. Family didn't like that scowl. So they said, no, we want a picture of him smiling. Well, this is a good picture, too. A handsome guy. So that... Yeah, well, that's... I like that other one, but this is the one you guys chose, so there you go. The next one is Miss Diane Baker and her husband Jerry. Please come up here. Diane is our, like I said before, our second lady racer that we're inducting here today. Her husband told her that she should go for this and just give it a try. She told me, she wrote me a little message saying that she was going to try, she was going to send a resume and see what would happen. Well, this was the most extensive resume this side of Hergansey, I'm telling you. And she used to be the secretary in USSA or some one of those events. Yeah.
WSRF, ESRA, and Pro.
She was good at it, let me tell you. The resume was unbelievable, and she says, well, you don't have to put it all in there. Well, folks, I wish I'd have brought my glasses.
Oh my gosh.
My wife, maybe you can go over and get the glasses out of the car.
The car or the Jeep?
The car. In the little pocket in the door. I'm going to maybe try Paul's. Oh, I'm good. I'm good. Paul's work. Diane Baker inducted into the Eastern Snowmobile Racing Hall of Fame 2021. Diane's first race in 1968 ended in a crash while driving her future father-in-law's brand new 2.3 Skidoo. But in her second race, a drag race on the same day, driving her future brother-in-law's big 640 TNT, she finished with a big win. When her husband was deployed to Vietnam shortly after, it would be 3 long years before she raced again. Diane won 2 races and finished third in points for the 1972-73 season in USSA. She was the only woman in the East to qualify for the Class C final at the World Series in Malone, New York, capturing 4th place. With a series of top wins during the next 3 years, she finished as high point champion in the women's Class 1 for 1977. In 1979, Diane was voted USSA Woman Driver of the Year, received a Sportsmanship Award at Malone, New York, and grabbed a third in both women's Class 1 and Class 2 at the Snowmobile World Series in Fulton, New York. From 1979 to 81, Diane made second in point totals and grabbed second in the ESRA Snowmobile World Series at Cobleskill, New York. She won a first-place trophy in women's Class 2 at the 1985 ESRA Snowmobile World Series in Schroon Lake, New York. Diane made women high point champion in Mod 1 in the ESRA division from 1981 till 1986. She made second in points for the 1986-1987 season and took second in the Snowmobile World Series at Skowhegan, Maine. Diane was ESRA's high point champion from 1988 to 1991 in women's Class 1 and Class 2. She was best overall champion in the men's division in Mod 1 and Mod 2 for 1991 and was named once again Woman Driver of the Year. She took the 1992-93 season off to work as a race official in the paddock area, but she resumed her winning ways, making high point women's champion from 1994 to 1997 in Mod 1 and Mod 2. Miss Baker tried her hand at snowcross racing from 1998 to 2000, picking up wins at Tupper Lake, New York, Vernon Downs, New York, Stevenson, New York, and Pulaski, New York. Diane was on the USSA Eastern Driver Committee, the Eastern Board of Directors in the WSRF, the ESRA, and Pro. was the secretary for some of these organizations, and was a certified New York snowmobile safety instructor for 14 years. Safety instructor, yeah, okay. Yeah. All right. Welcome, please, Miss Diane Baker.
Thank you. All right, once again, thank you very much. I am proud and very honored to be inducted today into the Hall of Fame. It's very special. Try not to be quite so nervous. I appreciate everyone that has worked and planned for this day. It is truly very cool that the Winter Warriors can get together each year and celebrate the incoming. I also think it's cool that Lucas Nast was here today. The race organizations are kind of dwindling, so that's the future. Lucas is the future of racing,
Yep.
and that's very important. I would like to acknowledge Midge and Linda Rosebrook. Thank you both for your time and dedication. Midge, you are one of the history keepers of the sport that I love. You followed your dream of a Hall of Fame, and here we are today, 5 years later. Thank you so much. I'd also like to acknowledge Paul Crane. I'm sorry your wife, Marilyn, isn't here today. She works very hard too. Thank you for hosting us at your very special snowmobile home and sharing your walls with us. It had been a very long time since I thought much about racing in the good old days. Then my husband Jerry and our son Corey got me hooked on the Facebook site. Rick and Terry Simula, thank you for your part in starting up the first Facebook ESR Hall of Fame site. We are lucky to connect with one another. It's very important these days. Thank you, Rick and Terry. My first race that Midge told you about that I crashed, I was 19. My last race was on my 50th birthday in the year 2000. So from 1969, which was the start, that was the beginning, and I did not race for 1970, 71, and 72. As Midge said, Jerry was in the military, so I had no pit crew guy, and there was a wedding, and there was a baby, right back there. And so in the spring of 72, we were just kids with a baby. And Jerry said, let's go racing now. Let's follow the USSA circuit. Well, Corey was a little over a year at that time, so it was all a whirlwind, and it was a crazy one. There were hurdles to jump, and we had no sponsors. We did have desire and ambition, and we jumped in, and we didn't look back until now. To make ends meet, we did extra jobs. We worked overtime. We usually hit the one-day races. Corey was with his grandmothers. So if we were at a one-day race, we didn't have to stay over. But if we did, we had made provisions in our van to stay in it. And one night in Greenville, Maine, we slept in our car, well below zero, and there were mice in the headliner of the car. Many weeks in the early 70s, one of us had to win some money so that we could make it home. Thankfully, we never got stranded. Jerry's philosophy, we worked hard so we could play hard.
Yeah.
My only regret is that I didn't get to race at Lancaster, New Hampshire. But you never know. We still have some good sleds in the barn. A lot of people say you raced a long time, so what was your most memorable race? And I have to say it was the rookie season in USSA. There were lots of sleds, and it was the 1973 Malone World Series. To qualify for it in my rookie year was amazing. There were between 20 and 25 women, and that might not sound like much, but it was a lot. And a lot of them I didn't know because they were from all over. My pit crew was Jerry and my father-in-law, who was about 71 at the time, and my two brother-in-laws, Harold and Don. If you remember 73 at Malone at the World Series, it was a quagmire. It was a challenge. And I had the best pit crew ever because they decided people were trying to put their sleds on their trailers and pull them. The dollies wouldn't work. You didn't want to drive your sled. You came in on the back stretch and you went out on the front stretch. You had to get that down. You had to figure out how to get across the infield. So my guys picked up my sled, which was a 340 free air TNT, and carried it across the infield. Not once, not twice, but 3 times. I finished third in the heat. I finished second in the semi, and in the final, I finished fourth. Watching them work so hard for me, I was complaining a little bit inside because I couldn't keep my boots on. The quagmire would take them off, and I thought, I best not complain. These men are carrying my sled. So there was no way I would give up, and I just kept trying harder. And that was kind of the way I continued many times. Just keep trying. I'm tired. Just keep trying. I won races in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and I think maybe in 2000. I don't remember for sure. I have many thank yous to say. As Midge mentioned, I served as a board member for 17 years, WSRF, ESRA, and Pro. That was in the 80s and 90s. 17 years on board seats and 10 years as the secretary. There no longer was a Boonville office at that point, and I'd like to thank my family for allowing the office to be set up in the corner of our kitchen all those years. So we carried lots of boxes to the races, all the forms, registrations, memberships, rule books, everything. Thanks to all who helped me with those jobs at the races. A special thanks to Dave Ernst, longtime leader, USSA race director, tech director, promoter, and friend. I made a comment on Facebook one day that I didn't know what I had gotten myself into because Jerry and his 2 brothers, they were all racing in the same class against each other. So I said that. I didn't know what I had gotten myself into, and a wise man replied to me on Facebook, I can tell you, he was a fellow racer, I can tell you what you got into. A life that most would not understand, a life that you wouldn't trade for anything, a life filled with memories and many, many friends made along the way. My list of thanks, it starts with Harold Baker, my brother-in-law. He was one of the guys that helped carry the sled across the infield. He owned the Ski-Doo dealership, and we used his race shop, we used his electricity, we used his tools, and he was very helpful, and I hope he's watching today. I have this person to thank, and not many people know this story. I am thanking Bill Abold, because in 1976 we bought a women's modified was not longer a class, and we bought a 250Z, and if you remember correctly, that was not the sled to buy in 1976. So Jerry cut it up and modified it, and I no longer had a sled to drive. And I was on the other side of the fence every weekend, well, a few weekends, and I was miserable to live with, I know it, and I really wanted to race. And I don't know how it all happened, but Mr. Bill Abold said I could drive one of his son's sleds. And I didn't care that it wasn't the fastest. I just wanted to take the green flag, I wanted to take the checkered flag, and I wanted to race. Thank you, Bill Abold. Pat? I wasn't sure if it was Pat or Dan.
Wouldn't have been mine, because I wouldn't have gave mine up.
No, I think it was Dan. Thank you, Dan. You're all right with me. You could go. That's okay. I also want to remember some people that helped me out. R.L. Cook and Jim Rockefeller in 1977. I drove their RV, their 245 RV Ski-Doo, and that was the first time that I got high points in any class. In 1982, also, Jerry and Bill Day from Niagara Falls, I drove their Sonic, and I finished first. And I have lost track with them. If they're listening, I sure would like to hear from them. I'd like to thank the Nicholson family, Wayne and Eric. In 1994, I traveled with them, and it was the experience of a lifetime. I had a Ski-Doo MX 440, no, 440 fan, and I got to go to Canada, to Quebec, Ontario, Eagle River, and I did fairly well. I thought, in my opinion, I did well. The Nicholsons have been lifelong friends. Rob Sapp and his dad and Christy, I also hope they're watching. I drove their Arctic Cats for 4 or 5 years in oval and snowcross, and miss them all. To all the gals and guys I beat, and those I didn't, thank you. I had the time of my life. The hat I have on, I forgot it. It's in. I have it with me. It's a reproduction of the hat, the granny hat, and my friend made it for me. I just have a couple more important people to thank. Corey, my little boy. I always said he was orphaned by racing. Where'd he go? Oh, there he is. I thought you left. Soon you were traveling with us. And I thank all my fellow racers and friends for keeping a watchful eye on you while I was racing on the track. Thank you, Corey, for everything you've done for me, sharpening carbides and studs and studying the tracks and testing and getting everything race ready. You've always been a great helper and a great racer. Thank you, and I love you. Most special thanks of all to my husband, Jerry. I never, ever thought, nor would I have tried, to have done this racing on my own. I couldn't have done this without you. You were there if I needed encouragement. You always gave me the best advice and sled setups possible. Your inventive skills made our modified sleds great. I am so thankful you and Corey can share this day with me, and I love you both. I had to say something nice about him because I know he's going to say something about me now.
Well, let's see now. This is not very long. It's just big sheets of paper. But I was home the other day in my library pondering, and I pondered long enough so my legs fell asleep. But in the process of pondering, I got thinking, you know, the snowmobile racing community gets a little bit of a bad rap sometimes as being a bunch of crazy hooligan taking people and just partiers. And I thought, well, with all this culture change we're going through, maybe I could just do a little something to help that reputation. Then I thought, well, if you were a tech man at a racetrack or if you owned a motel for the year-end banquet, that wasn't too bad of a statement with snowmobile racers, because we've all had our times there. And I got thinking, maybe if I introduced a little of the finer arts with such a group of people as this, they would, maybe the reputation would be a little milder. So I thought possibly a little good poetry would go good. So I sat down and I wrote a poem, and I read over the poem and I thought, nope, that's not going to help at all. You're stuck with who you are, because this poem's not going to do it. But I made it, I wrote it, so I'll read it. This story may sound familiar to those of you that are here. It was spaghetti one week, lasagna the next, the whole year. Enough money for a new belt and a spark plug or two, enough to buy gas to get to the race, but come feature time, one of us had to place or we were through. We traveled from Pennsylvania to Maine in a half-ton van with a glow bug heater that ran on propane. With a hose out the door, it looked like a gas chamber as gas chambers go. The porta potty is still frozen from sleeping in the van at Boonville at 45 below. Here, Diane, take the sled and check the hole shot. Was there snow in the infield? Well, no, there was not. The sled had a hole shot, the skis in the air, then came down to a stop. Unfortunately, Diane did not. A broken thumb, the EMT said, and at that point she told me I must go on the track, for I am not dead. So duct tape her hand to the handlebars, don't need no brake. This was a mistake we were soon to dread. Going into the first turn, she landed on her head. The local doctor said not to worry. He had a plan. He put the thumb in a cast in the shape of a handlebar. Doc was her biggest fan. I put the carbide runners on wrong one day. The hole shot was good, but the flagman dove over the snowbank to get out of the way. Need to change the gears, I proclaimed. Don't have time to put the gear cover back on, I said. Let the grease fly. You'll be leaning to the left and the grease will fly by. Yeah, that turned out to be a very big lie. So she soared into the turn 3, a speed aplenty. The sled threw her off and rolled to rest on her fanny. She sat on a pillow, nothing hard as a board, and at the end of the year ceremony, she received the Fractured Pride and Prickled Fanny Award. Blew an engine at Syracuse, much to our dismay. Figured we'd rebuild it outdoors, figured we'd work all night till the break of day. No, that was not to be true. Along comes Jack Beebe behind the wheel. I have a room at the Holiday Inn, take your motor there, it's no big deal. So off to the room we went, with the motor under a blanket for a hiding tent. I stood in the bathtub with a cylinder between my knees, with gas flying off the honing wheel. After all, Jack did say, no big deal. Then along came Corey on the scene. Grandparents questioned, you're still going racing? Isn't that rather extreme? But Diane knew the kind of fellow racers at the track. Here, could you watch Corey for a bit? I'll be right back. My race is up and I need to be on the track. So people might say, why would you go through all of that? It seems like so much work and such a drag. But we knew the answer. It was all about the checkered flag. We look back at all those years. She started in '68 and see the people we met and the friends we've had chance to make. And see the success, and we see the mistakes, and we realize every day of our lives, and especially today, it's without a doubt whatever it takes.
Corey, why don't you get the baby down here too?
Yeah, I'm trying.
Get in there, Midge.
Graduated. You can stand in front of me. I'll actually look over top of it.
Thank you, guys. That was a great poem. Yeah, that was enjoyable.
Glory day, Diane.
Diane, we have a little extra surprise for you too.
How did you know I love sunflowers? I'd like a picture, please.
Get a photo with the crowd too. All right, the next person we're inducting today is probably one of the most important people when it comes to the snowmobile and snowmobile racing. And his family could not be here today, but we have Betty Newell, who was the secretary at Timberland Machines at the time. Come on up, Betty, would you please? This is Miss Betty Newell. She's a longtime friend of ours. She does way more for Lancaster than we deserve. And she's going to accept this for Terry Burkos, who is maybe watching right now, Gayleen Paris, and Rick Bottoms, the three children of Mr. Robert J. Bottoms. He was a promoter, inducted into the Eastern Snowmobile Racing Hall of Fame 2021. Bob was employed by Timberland Machines Limited of Woodstock, Ontario in 1956. After thoroughly searching northern Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine for a second facility, Bottoms chose Lancaster, New Hampshire as Timberland's newest branch. Due to the central location and the fact that it was the county seat, Bob was a natural salesman, and many have described him as being a marketing genius. He was responsible for the early local success of the Bombadil line of logging equipment, as well as the Timberjack log skidder. But a phone call in 1958 from J. Armand Bombardier would change forever our northern winters as we knew it, when Bob was invited to Valcourt, Quebec, to look at the latest invention, a small over-the-snow vehicle named the Ski Dog. Bottoms was accompanied by his young salesman Paul T. Crane, and when J. Armand offered Bob a test drive, Bob instead gave the green light to Crane. While the two stood watching, Crane drove it down the unpaved main street of Valcourt. It was a ride for the ages. Bob agreed to take one to test the market. Bombardier saw it as a vehicle to replace the snowshoe for trappers and loggers. But far-thinking Bottoms was already visualizing it as a potential recreational wintertime bonanza. Bob was the motivating force behind Skidoo's early success, and Timberland Machines quickly outgrew its old building on Canal Street. The company broke ground in 1966 for a brand new huge complex on North Main Street to house a sales inventory of over 10,000 snowmobiles a year at its peak. Bob Bottoms, along with other enthusiasts, helped form the first snowmobile club in America, the Lancaster Snowdrifters, in 1964. Guess who else was at that first meeting. Paul Crane right here. He was instrumental in helping to develop snowmobile racing in Lancaster in 1962, and he even thought up the name Grand Prix for Lancaster's bicentennial in 1964. Through Bob, Timberland Machines purchased a huge silver cup for the 1966 Grand Prix, naming it the Kilkenny Cup, and donated it to the Snowdrifters. With Bob's leadership, the Lancaster Grand Prix soon became one of the most prestigious snowmobile racing events in North America. He was also the driving force behind the success of Timberland's Big T racing team into the most formidable winning team in all of New England. Mr. Bob Bottoms. A very handsome man he was. Betty, do you have anything to say about Bob?
I would say that Bob was a real push and very enthusiastic, and he kept us all very busy. We were very successful. My memory of those really good days when we were here was that many families, most families in Lancaster had someone who worked at Timberland Machines. If you went through Lancaster, every house would have a minimum of one snow machine in its yard. If you went out from your door, any time of the day or night, you would hear the motors of snowmobiles. We were hardworking, we were healthy, and thank you, Bob, for all you did for the town of Lancaster. It became a destination.
Thank you, Betty. Betty was a long-time employee at Timberlands, and she was also a driving force behind a lot of things that went on up there. Very, very valued employee at Timberlands. Kelvin, you knew Bob Bottoms more than I did. I know Bob Martin, of course, isn't here today. So do you have any words to say about Bob Bottoms? Or I can bring the mic to you. I've got quite enough.
Well, that's happening, Midge. They're watching.
Yeah.
They're making comments. We've got Terry, Aileen, Rick, and Frank watching. They say hello and thank you.
Well, I say, can you hear me okay?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you,
I
Betty.
see, I don't know who you talked to, but my father was the first canoe dealer in the state of Maine. It could have been somebody else. This could have been Bruce Dunham. Father could have been, but my father, I believe, was the first canoe dealer in Maine. And he went up to see Bob Bottoms because he was a hunter, and he wanted a machine that would go over the snow in the wintertime and hunt bobcats. And he went up to see Bob Bottoms, and Bob took him up to his house, and he showed him this machine that would go over the snow. And he said, my father said, well, would you sell it to me? And Bob said, well, we're not really set up yet to sell to people, the public, but if you want one, I can get you one. And my father said, well, how about becoming a dealer? And Bob said, we never even thought about having a dealer, but yeah, but anyway, we'll put you on the list. So that's how we became one of the first canoe dealers in the state of Maine. And the thing I know about Bob, I've got pictures of him in my showroom, and he and the president of Bombardier, and there's all kinds of memorabilia. But the thing that I got to thank Bob for was to setting up the racing team with Bobby Faulkner as the head. When I first came to Lancaster to race in 1965, Bobby Faulkner was like 19 years old, and just with him buzzing around like this, you know who you had to beat today, because Bobby was everywhere, and he was so excited. And Bob Bottoms picked the right guy to head that racing team, and the team was professional and set the tone for everybody that raced canoes. And Chris Matty, and
Frank Dodge over there.
all the guys on the team, especially Dave Pickard, Bruce Dunham, the guy from Gorham, Maine called Reynolds Raiders.
Yes,
So anyway, Bob is the one responsible for that. And also he was responsible for hiring guys like Bill Solwyn to run you know who Bill, and then Bob could pick the guys, and that's who really runs the company, is the guys he picked. So you can't get enough credit to Bob Bottoms. I mean, definitely everything you said he was, and everything you said, I mean, definitely, he's the man.
Thank you, Kelvin. Yes, Kelvin, his dealership, Reynolds Raiders, was one of the top teams in New England at that time. And he raced under the Timberland banner, and Bruce Dunham did, and they were a force to be reckoned with. Everywhere you went, if you saw a yellow van with a big red T on the side of it, you could either do one of two things. You could maybe go back home or try racing against them, but it was a very tough job to try to get ahead of them. Anyway, we'll have a photo here with Betty and Paul and I, and this plaque I will send to Terry, and we have one on the wall, Terry, and you can watch that happen. When we drop the cloth in there, we're going to ask people to maybe hold back till we get the cameras in there, and we can show the cloth dropping, and Bob is on the wall.
Oh, and Terry and Frank say thank you to Cal.
All right, our next inductee, he goes by the name of Chip. Everybody knows him by that name. I don't know if I even knew his first name when he was racing, because it was always Chip Elwood. But we want Wayne Elwood to please come to the podium. Wayne Chip Elwood, inducted into the Eastern Snowmobile Racing Hall of Fame 2021. Chip's first race was in 1969 at a local event near his home on a borrowed 399 TNT. He won first place against more seasoned riders. At Malone, New York, Chip won 7 out of 8 races he entered, plus he took first place in the Liberty Redfield in Forestport, New York. In 1970, Elwood began racing for the Widowmakers team on Arctic Cat and driving the only cat in the 440 finals in 2 World Series, capturing 5th place in the first Snowmobile World Series in Rhinelander, Wisconsin, and 5th at the second Snowmobile World Series in Ironwood, Michigan. Chip was offered to race for the famous Team A-Bold in 1973. He took 2 50-lap Norwich Opens on his Mod 3 Arctic Cat in a field of Mod 4 sleds in 1973 and 74. Wayne Elwood helped provide Team A-Bold with its third top driver on our eastern track, solidifying this team's legendary status as the winningest independent snowmobile racing team in the history of the sport. He set a track speed record at the Weedsport Speedway that held until it was broken by a stock car in the mid-1990s. Elwood's Mod 4 Arctic Cat was widely regarded as one of the fastest, if not the fastest, 650 in the country. Chip won Super Mod 4 at the 1974 Northeastern Championship in Malone, New York on Saturday, but halfway through a heat race on Sunday, he stopped to help an injured driver, losing his chance to win the race, but he did receive the Sportsmanship Award for his quick actions. Chip was very seriously injured at Bangor, Maine halfway through the season of 1975, but he was so far ahead in points in both Mod 2 and Mod 4, he still received gold bib number 11 at the end of the season. A conservative estimate of over 300 first, second, and third place wins can be easily tallied in the career of the very popular, flamboyant, and charismatic Mr. Wayne Chip Elwood. The ladies can tell you, I've heard stories that Wayne was very popular with the young ladies back then. Is that true, Wayne?
Rumor has it.
A lot of rumors were true.
Yeah, here we go. Oh, yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's really nice. Thank you. Well, there's so many people to thank that I don't even know where to start. My whole family's here, and my good friends from down home, and one of my very good friends, racing partner, so to speak, Jackie DeWitt's here, and hopefully she'll be up here one of these days. And,
I can guarantee it.
I was blessed to be able to have 2 mechanics, which both of them became personal, lifelong friends. They both were geniuses, and one was Everett Regal, and the other one was Bill Abald. I'll tell you, I couldn't have done it without him. And one of the most important people to thank is Bob Swartz. Bob kind of took me under his wing out there at Rhinelander. It's a long story why I had an Arctic Cat out there, but I did. And Bob was so good to me. He treated me like I was his own son. And I was always very appreciated for that. For any of you who don't know Bob or whatever, he was owned Nero, Nero, and was a distributor for all Arctic Cats for the whole East after a while, yeah. If I can get through this, I wouldn't have been able to have done this for my dad and my mother. My dad, I'll make this short, was a sophomore in high school, and we had this federal judge at that camp up our road, and back in those days, I think it was 1935, I think, you know, the only entertainment was to watch baseball, you know, so this federal judge used to go down and watch our high school team all the time, and our dads, and I guess Dad was pretty good, so he asked my grandfather if it was okay, and he had him try out for the Cincinnati Reds. And I remember Dad telling me that he pitched 2 innings, he struck out the first 2 batters, the next guy hit a home run. And he said he remembered how they flocked to him and knew they were going to sign him and everything. And then he pitched another inning, struck out 2 more, and the other guy grounded out. They wanted to sign my dad. Well, the judge says, well, you can't. And they said, well, why not? He's only a sophomore in high school. So he went on. He didn't leave. The judge was going to pay for him to go to college and everything because my grandfather didn't have any money at home. But he couldn't do that because my grandfather only had one arm. He lost it in a hunting accident before Dad was born. And so subsequently, Dad didn't go. And he played town team ball, and my mother had clippings home, striking out 17 batters, 15s, 13, 12. I mean, he obviously must have been pretty darn good. And I just hope that being able to achieve this honor here today, and it is to me, that I hope Dad could live his dreams through me.
He is right now. He is right now, Chip. And you deserve to be here.
Yep.
And the whole team is here.
Yep.
And we're going to get photos.
No, do you just now? Oh, okay. Okay. No.
Come on up.
Don't come up, don't come up. I'm not. Just tell me the thing I exercise. Hey, I'm fine.
Here you go.
Got mine?
Yeah. And thank you.
Hold up.
Look at each other, Chip. Look at your daughter. Look at her.
What? Oh,
Got it.
thank you. All right, Chipper.
Thank you, Chip. Hey, before we do this last inductee, I see Shane Beatty over there. I want Shane to come over here. Please come over here, Shane. Would you come over here? Shane Beatty grew up around snowmobile racing his entire life. His dad used to have to pick him up and set him on the seat of the dump truck when they used to go around and make laps around the Grand Prix racetrack. And back in, 2010, 2011, long in there, we got the idea that maybe we could do a 50th reunion of the Lancaster Grand Prix. Remember that? I do. There was only one person that would be qualified to be chairman of that race, and he's standing right here. And when I wanted to find out who could be our board of directors, it was Paul and I. There's two. We had to have five. I knew Bob Clark would sign on as a director. I knew Shane Beatty would sign on as a director, and I needed one more. So Greg over there, Greg Allen, was the only guy I actually called or messaged to be a board of director, and he said yes. So Greg was the only guy, because these guys here I know would go on anyway. But Shane has always been in our corner with his Hall of Fame, with the 3 Grand Prix that we did, and I just want to recognize somebody that stayed up nights. He put on the greatest race in the East. Everybody said that. Everybody that raced at Eagle River. Everybody that raced at Valcourt. George Sampson came up to me at the Boonville banquet that Ed Stapp put on a few years ago, and he said that Grand Prix is better than Eagle River. And this gentleman right here is because that was that good. And Shane Beatty, I just wanted the people to see you, and yeah, you're going to kick my butt later too. So, yeah. Well, there was more than Shane, but you're the one that got the team together. All right, next inductee. Let me just tell you this. There is probably no better racer in New England than Bob Fortin on that Skidoo. He won the 295 class and the 340 class every weekend, everywhere, for about 2 years, 1970, 1971. It was Bob Fortin that won, and then whoever else filled in on the field, but it was Bob Fortin. So we all knew in the 1971 Grand Prix who was going to win the 295 class and who was going to win the 340 class. It was going to be Bob Fortin. The problem was nobody told Stephen Fenoff. There's a little attic cat up there next to the building with the engine sticking out, a little 71, what do they call those, EXTs? That's an EXT special, and how special that sled was. Because he cleaned our clock here in 1971, and Stephen Fenoff's name is on the Kilkenny Cup. Stephen Fenoff, would you come up here, please? All right, Steve. Stephen Fanoff, inducted into the Eastern Snowmobile Racing Hall of Fame 2021. Steve began his racing career in 1969 on a motor ski for Benoits of St. Johnsbury. After watching him at a race, Paul Calkins of Calkins Cat offered Steve a sponsorship racing for his company. At the 1970 Lake Region Open in New Hampshire, Fanoff, in only his second race on a Cat, took second in a 4-hour endurance race, and the following day, first in the 57-mile cross-country, winning first overall. When Steve finished fifth in Class 2 at the Balsams against larger dealers and distributors on a non-competitive machine, Arctic Cat distributor Rod Hughes stated, "This boy has got to have some engine." Putting Steve Fanoff on a competitive racer was the best thing that ever happened to Calkins Cat. In 1970, Steve won the Devil's Bowl in Fairhaven, Vermont, winning in both Class 1 and Class 2. He raced to a first-place win with his Mod 2 Cat at the prestigious Schaefer's Open Modified race in 1970, winning the Schaefer's Cup. Steve qualified for the first USSA World Series race in Rhinelander, Wisconsin. Driving the race of his life at the 1971 Lancaster Grand Prix, Steve won overall in Mod 2, having his name engraved on the famous Kilkenny Cup. Steve finished first in both Mod 1 and Mod 2, winning overall points to take home the Governor's Cup at the Massachusetts State Championship. Steve also grabbed a first place and a second place at the Paul Bunyan Open 2 years running. Steve Fanoff has won a countless number of other races, both sanctioned and non-sanctioned events during his career, making him one of State of Vermont's all-time top snowmobile racers from the golden era. Mr. Steve Fanoff.
Ah, boy, look how young that guy was. First of all, I got to thank everybody. This organization is so great. I'm not as good as some, and pulling out everybody's name, but without them, we wouldn't be here, and we got to thank them very, very much. And isn't that right? Matter of fact, let's give them a good hand, all right? They just build the Hawaiians that Carolyn mentioned a lot of times even, and they just help so much. And I've been coming to this, and it's fun. And seeing all the drivers and everything, ladies and men, it's really an honor. It really is. And Lucas brought my machine that I won the Lancaster race with in '71, and that's such a thrill, and thanks to him. And I started out, as he mentioned, it's hard. He reads off all that good stuff, you know. And Benoit you have to thank, because that's where you started. But right here is a gentleman, Paul Calkins. He saw something in me, and that man, thank you. He built my engines and stuff in his just his workshop. It wasn't a dealer or anything. And the Balsam race meant so much, because if it was cross country, I was good. And we won, but when it came to the tracks, we just plain didn't have the horsepower. And Rod came up after that Balsam race, and like I said, we left, there was a big oval, and we left dead last. Went into the cross country, we came out first. Before we got to the finish line, we were fifth. And Rod came up and he says, that boy does, and that was a big change. He says, that boy needs an engine. So he gave us some cylinders, and Paul went to work. And I can say this right out, that Paul Calkins built some of the best engines that ever raced.
Yep.
He really did. And the sad part is he didn't get this machine going until about mid-year, and then she really talked, but I couldn't quite get in. But we could have made him really worry at the World Series. That's one that I missed, and I'm so sad that I missed. But that was a big part of it. And then we went, there's a race I have to mention that wasn't actually sanctioned by this, but it's so big. The first World Series in Rhinelander, Wisconsin. We went to West Yellowstone first. The week before, we drove out, and I was fortunate enough that he hired me to go with the machine so we could take him out, because I didn't have any money to fly out and that stuff. So we went out to West Yellowstone, and it was a huge race. We was in the A-mains. There was only 6. I only finished like 4th, but that to us, for being that far away and everything was super. Then we went to Rhinelander, Wisconsin, the first World Series. Let's put it this way, my cat didn't know how to swim. And so we did not do that. Well, I admire a cat sitting beside me, and he pulled it out, and I wish I would have talked to him that day. And so there's one other one I wanted to mention, and thank you. Roger Poole in here, folks. Roger's a good one. I'm not that great a speaker, but Rhinelander, Wisconsin. No, not. It's on here, I think, but when the World Series,
Potato field?
Yeah, that was Massachusetts, yeah.
Potato field?
Yes.
Massachusetts.
Yeah, I know. Northampton, Mass. Thank you. Could you guys come out here with me, please? I was afraid this would happen. I have had time remembering my name at times. But
That's where I got my wallet.
yeah. But down there we had a tremendous day. That was my biggest winnings that day to us. Like I was taking home at the time probably $85 a week and living on it. And we went down that day and won 1 and 2, Mod 1 and Mod 2, and we took home $2,200, and I was so proud of that, man, and all of these things. Then I find out later on that the 650 and 800 class was making like $5,000. Talk about hurting your feelings. You win the Governor's Cup and everything, and you bring home 22. But no, that was a lot of fun. Okay, and thank you, everyone.
Steve, he's one of the great Vermont drivers, and Roger Poland. We got 2 Vermonters here.
Have your wife come up here.
Your wife? Yes. Next, you in? I should go. What's that? Thank you.
Chris Burvaz just told me that we have a gentleman here that you need to meet too. His name was huge in early snowmobile racing. He brought Yamaha to New England, and he did very well. Is Ronnie Womet here? Can I have Ronnie come up here, please? Womet, I think his name. I don't think he pronounces it Womet. I don't think he Frenches it up, but.
I get Calvin Reynolds to come up here and talk to me. Congratulations, Bill.
Yeah.
I can tell a little story about you.
Ronnie, it's so nice to meet you, sir. You know, your name was in all the race magazines back then as Team Abold and the Reynolds team and the Timberland team, and I grew up, you know, seeing that your name in print, but this is the first time I've been able to meet you in person, and we really appreciate you coming here. And I think that Ronnie Womet, that's how you pronounce it, right? Womet, okay. Ron will probably, without a doubt, be joining these guys on the wall at some point, and so I just wanted you folks to see him and know that he was one of the guys that made things happen back then. Thank you, Ron. Thank you very much. Before we go, Paul wanted me to mention something about, you know, when we first started doing this, I had no idea that how much it was going to cost, and I didn't even think about it. But in the 2018 induction, Bruce and Mary Dunham was staying with us at the house, and after the 2018 induction, we were home, sitting in the living room and just taking in the day, and the phone rang, and Glinda said hello, and she handed it to me, and she said, "It's Calvin Reynolds." Well, the first thing that goes through my mind after we just got done inducting Calvin is he dropped his plaque, broke the glass, and we don't have another one to replace it. That's the first thing that went through my mind. I could not have any other reason why he'd want to call me. And he said, "Midge," he says, "how are you funding this thing?" And I said, "Calvin, right now it's out of our own pocket." He says, "Well, Midge, I want to help." And I says, "Calvin," he said, "we've been blessed in business, Midge," and he says, "and I want to help." And I said, "Calvin, you've worked for every single dime you ever had, and you did not get inducted onto that wall, and we're not trying to wrangle money out of you." I said, "You were inducted because you deserve to be there." And he says, "I want to help anyway, and I need your address." And about a week later, a check arrived, and it was more than I made in a month. So I just want to tell everybody that we're not looking for money. We accept a donation. JR has helped us out. Joe Wilkinson's helped us out. Paul Lamontagne helps us out. And we sure do appreciate it, because it does cost a lot for fuel to keep this place heated and to keep the door open. It does. But it's a double-edged sword. We just are not here to wrangle money out of anybody that we're inducting. You are inducted because you deserve to be there. And that's all I have to say about that. So thank you, guys. And if you would hold up so that the camera guys can get set up, maybe take them inside and get them set up, and then we'll have the Hall of Fame inductees go in and we'll drop the cloth. And after we do that, the Lancaster Motel is having an after party for the inductees, their families, and for the Hall of Fame contributors. Please go to the Lancaster Motel for the after party.
The unveiling is upon us.
That young fellow on the wall. Oh, I hate how this do.
So, Steve, do you have any memories of that winning the Kilkenny Cup? We're live on Facebook and YouTube. Any memories of winning the Kilkenny Cup? Of that day or that race? Yeah, we're live on Facebook and YouTube. Yes.
Actually, it was a real big thing. We was fortunate enough to win Lancaster, and that to us, of course, is the Daytona, the cast iron, and everything else. You know, around these huge factories, and everything was here. And I remember it well. I was running the second. The white flag came out, high in the day, and I came down sharp onto coming out of corner 2, went under the skidoo, and we drove on to victory, and that was the big one for us. Wow. And we made it up. We were fortunate enough the year before, they had cross country and oval, and I lost an engine cross country. That was my strength, actually. So we felt pretty bad, but we came back the next day, the oval was, and we won that. So we won the oval 2 years ago, which is pretty special, which we all know. From the Bobby Portons and all the factories, it was a big deal. You and all the others, like I said, everything, and thank you much. Today's world's unbelievable. Somebody could be way off somewhere watching this.
So people watch it from everywhere.
And folks in the 60s, it wasn't that way.
It's true, isn't it? Yeah.
This is a special day, and we need to thank you.
You're very welcome. Yeah, thanks for coming.
Everyone out there.
Yes, well over water, by the way. Fist bump.
There you go. We don't always win, but there.
That's right.
Hi, I'm Billy Bold. I started Team A Bold back in 1969. We had Herb Yancey and Ron Hall, Chip Elwood as drivers, which was very fortunate for me. And in the consequence, most of them have been inducted into the Hall of Fame. And this year, Bruce called me, invited me, which I was very excited to come down. And I think we'll be coming down in the future. It's a much larger, much more professional group than I had envisioned. So I'm just tickled and happy, and want to thank everybody for the hard work that they do to keep the Snowmobile Hall of Fame going.
Wonderful, thank you. And then as far as thinking back about yesteryear, is there any memories that come to mind, some favorite memories that you had with the teammates or things that might have happened?
Oh, we had hundreds of those. Probably the 50 lap at Weedsport. Nordic Factory was there and put a big splash on, and we went down, and we had 2 sleds in that race. And Ronnie won by 4 laps, and Herbie was running second with Ronnie when the cylinder broke right off at the base. So put him out. And but that was pretty neat to win that 50 laps by 4 laps.
Yeah.
In the league. That's probably one of the best or the most memorable races that we had.
Sure.
They had many wins and many records.
Yeah. And I'm a fellow Cat fan, so I wanted to see what your thoughts were remembering the Cat, Arctic Cat as a brand over those years. Any thoughts about Cat?
Oh, I think Arctic Cat they had it together for years. I happened to come in kind of at the end of when the snowmobiles started to wind down. In '73, we used to go to the races with a school bus. And I used to take 55 gallons of gas in the back, and we'd siphon it in because you couldn't buy gas.
Wow.
5 gallons was the maximum you could buy in the stations. But no, Arctic Cat is a, you know, when you become an Arctic Cat fan and then a team person, Arctic Cat is got to be number one.
Yeah.
They were a very large company at that time, and they built products like a couple of the other manufacturers that they're still there outrunning today.
Yeah.
So, no, I'm a very good fan of Arctic Enterprises.
Then and now, still very loyal.
Still very loyal.
Wonderful. I see you've got the badges on your hat. I wonder if you could turn your head to the left just a second, or turn this way a little bit. I want to get a shot of those. And what's that purple one? Is that the cat is here again? Oh, you know you can count on the cat. Yeah. Excellent. Well, great.
Well,
Yeah.
it's funny. This hat is from 1976.
76, that hat.
That hat is. And Kathy was going through some of the old memorabilia, and there it was, still sitting on top of the pile. So she said, "You ought to wear that."
Absolutely. Good. I'm glad you did.
We did our best for 8 years, trying to keep Cat on top.
Yeah.
And I think we succeeded pretty well.
Yeah, for sure. Good deal. Well, it was really nice to meet you, Bill.
And the team
Go ahead, yeah. Go ahead.
that we were with, or that I formed, have turned out to be best friends. We get together at least once a year just before Christmas, and they're our best friends.
That's amazing. The camaraderie was really powerful.
Yeah.
Then and now.
Yeah.
That's impressive. That's not always the case.
No, our team stuck together over, 20-some years.
That's amazing. Cool deal. Well, good. Yeah, it was very nice to meet you, Bill. I appreciate the interview.
Well, I appreciate you asking.
All right.
Hi, my name is Diane Baker, and I was inducted today into the Eastern Snowmobile Racing Hall of Fame. And it was very exciting, and now I'm just kind of settling down and taking it all in and thinking about things. And I am not sure what, I was trying to think of a story real quick, but there are so many. I raced for so many years that I feel very fortunate to have had that opportunity, had people help, and my family taking part with me. That was one of the best things. Oh, I could tell you the story of a day where we were testing with one of our stock sleds, and we were on a lake, and so Jerry took the sled and he wanted to try it first, and unfortunately it didn't really have a good end. It had a good ending, but we were on ice, and he took it down the ice, and I thought the ice felt kind of thin, that maybe we shouldn't have done this. Yeah, and he did go through. He went through the ice. He managed to get on his back and, kind of belly across the ice, and thank gosh for that. And so the sled did sink, and it went to the bottom, but we were all for getting home at that point, and we, like I say, very fortunate. I knew as I walked towards him to try to help him that was not the right thing, because both of us would have been in. So we scurried right home, and the next day we had a crew. We could take get the sled out. It had frozen overnight. And it was they took a rowboat out, and they got it out. We raced the sled the next weekend and won.
Wow.
So there's a story for you.
That's a story. That's amazing.
Yeah. Very thankful that everything turned out all right.
Yeah.
It could have been bad.
There's a lot of things that could have got a lot worse with that.
Everybody should take heed. Don't go out if there's any question at all.
Yeah, for sure.
About the ice. Yeah.
Yeah.
You never know what you're going to run into when you're setting up sleds and testing and
Yeah.
things like that. You have to be careful.
Now, were there any specific sleds that you remember as being a favorite, or class or division of? Was there anything that stand out as a favorite?
My favorite was when they had modified for the women, and usually it was a 295, and they called it Women's Mod 1. And I felt really bad when they discontinued that class, because I thought, even though the entries were dwindling, they were dwindling all the way around. It wasn't just that class, and I felt that it was one where the hubby could run it and the wife could run it. I didn't feel that it warranted it, but that's what happened anyway, and I really missed it. I ran it in '74, and I have a picture. I was leading Jim Adima's wife with their Snowjet, which is a very precious picture to me. Several laps later, I blew a belt, so I didn't lead for the whole race. She won it, but I was out front. I was on a Blizzard, Skidoo Blizzard, 295, and the next year they changed it to 250 cc's, and so we got a Snowjet chassis, sleeved down the Blizzard motor to a 250, and that was our sled, and we had really good luck with it. The Rotax motor into the Snowjet chassis, and we had great luck with it, and I like that Snowjet chassis. It really handled nice. Yeah.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Any thoughts? Now, you raced for several decades, so any thoughts of the evolution or the way snowmobiling changed through those decades, good, bad, or otherwise?
The 70s were spectacular in my mind. The number of drivers in the competition. And because I got to take part in that, the women that I raced against were excellent. So I gathered a lot.
Yeah.
It didn't maybe, wasn't, how do I say it? I was in there with them. I'd
Yeah.
give them a run,
Sure.
and I did win. Maybe not as much as the rest,
Sure.
as many times,
You held
but
your own.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And as I look back, the 70s were what prepared me for the 80s and the 90s.
Yeah.
And some people actually thought that maybe I shouldn't be, continuing to race because of the experience
Yeah.
factor. But I had some tough girls to run against in those decades as well.
Wow.
So, but what I learned and went through and experienced in the 70s was amazing.
It was a good
Wish I could
foundation
go back
for you
and
as a
do it
racer.
all.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what?
It was a good foundation for you as a racer?
Yeah, the best.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
like I said earlier today at the induction, to go out there with 25 or so other women competing for that World Series in Malone, it was just unreal. When they told me how many gals were going to be racing, it has dwindled, and that's kind of sad.
Yeah.
Even our Vintage Association here, I think it needs a little help.
Yeah.
And I'd like to encourage people to look into Northern New York, NNY, Vintage Snowmobile Racing Association, see their rules, and you might have a sled that would enter into those classes and help us get it back going again, and you would see the schedule, and it might be close by if you're in New York, and maybe get something going again.
Good.
You think of Lucas Nast
Yeah.
going all the way to Eagle River.
That's amazing.
And there isn't a whole lot more,
Sure.
and especially with the border being closed.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that puts a hurt on things.
we'll keep our fingers crossed and hope for the best, because we can't lose this.
No.
We have to keep going.
I agree.
Yep.
Cool. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Cool.
Thank you very much.
My name is Betty Evans Newell. I was born in Lancaster and was here when Bob Bottoms first came to Lancaster to sell logging equipment. It started, and the reason, as Mitch said, the reason they chose it was that it was at the crossroads where they thought they would do the best coverage. And of course there was Prentices, Timberjacks, and super sweepers for cities, and they had subsidiaries, incidentally, in Ashland, Bangor, Maine, Glens Falls, New York, Plainville, Connecticut, and Chelmsford, Massachusetts. But Bob did bring on the skidoos, snowmobiles, and that took off like fire.
Wow.
And we worked, Saturday was just another day to work because we were keeping up with the demand. For Lancaster, it made a big difference. He did a lot for Lancaster. As I said at the presentation, he focused on Lancaster, having events in Lancaster, and that's why we had the Grand Prix here. He hired local boys during vacations to out in the parts department, everybody owned a skidoo. Most people had one for each member of the family. And they were, the sounds as you went out at day or night, you heard them. It's really they were a wonderful family, and good friends to everyone, and the kids did well here, made friends, but they're all away, and that's why they asked me to do it on the family's behalf, to accept
Nice.
the award.
And you're friends and you used to be neighbors with him. You used to work for Mr. Bottoms.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. See, what else would you like to know about Lancaster or about the Bottoms family?
Yeah, the Bottoms family, and also just the excitement around when the interviews were, when ski-doos and snowmobiling were at a fever pitch here in Lancaster, and the
Oh
excitement
yes,
around that.
everybody, there were trails everywhere, and we made our own back at that time. I should have brought my, I still have the sales ticket from my first skidoo suit, and I
Wow.
still wear my skidoo suit, that was what everyone wore in those days.
Yeah.
And I have my jacket, which I can still wear. So there was clothing as well as the parts, and for the people love to get the used tracks so they could have them to go into their trucks or trailers.
Oh yeah. Sometimes you'd see them as mud flaps too.
Yeah.
They'd cut a short section as a mud flap.
Exactly.
I remember that.
And everybody would get permission from the farms, if they wanted to go on make their trails. People would, in my particular case, I had a group of friends, and we would, for Saturday or Sunday, one person would plan the trip, another couple would plan the dinner, we'd go out and like go to the Kangamangas. That was one of the trips we did before it turned into a road.
Oh, really? Before it was a road?
Yeah,
Wow.
and up in the Pineys, we had an Easter breakfast.
Yeah.
And we weren't the only set of couples that did this. There were many, and it was a way of life. It was healthy.
Yeah. Get you outside in the winter.
We were out all the time. After supper, you'd go home and get supper, eat it, do the dishes, and out until bedtime.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
It really was a destination when we would have the Grand Prix here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I guess the final thing, maybe some thoughts about the excitement around importing Ski-Doo as a brand. And
Yeah, oh yes, there was competition.
Yeah.
And a lot of, there were different companies that tried to get into the business, and some made it, and most failed. It was pretty much came down to Monoski and Skidoo and Bombardier.
Yeah.
So we would talk with the people from Valcourt.
Yeah.
They'd be on the road. We had truckers, our own truckers. We had our own at Timberland. We had a computer. We were on site.
Wow.
And now we have in our cell phones can do more than that computer.
Isn't that crazy?
But they sent me out. They sent me out to get training on the computer.
Yep.
When I was in accounting before I became secretary to the president up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a good time in Lancaster.
I'll bet it was. Yeah, and it employed a lot of people in town, didn't it?
It did. From each family, we had at least one person. And not just Lancaster, but the surrounding towns, Jefferson, Whitefield, Groveton, up to North Stratford, going up to Canada.
Wow. It was doing good things for the economy at the time.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, they used to come for our Christmas parties here at the motel.
Wow. Timberland had their Christmas parties here at the motel.
Oh, yes.
That's amazing.
First rate shrimp and
Wow.
buffet and McLaughlin's on at that time.
Yep.
Shane, you heard of Shane Beatty.
Yeah.
His wife's family owned the motel. They built, in fact, they built the motel here after the two previous hotels that had been on this site had burned.
Yeah.
I'm in the historical society, so
Oh, wow.
I'm big on all this.
Good.
Well, probably more than you want to know.
Yeah, that's good. I'm asking the right person. Good deal.
So, Bob, I said he was a real pleasure. I mean, the sky was the limit.
Yeah.
And then we had, every January, the different subsidiaries would come, we would have a general sales meeting where the vendors would come in and talk about their product, inspirational speakers. And we came here at first, but then it grew so that we went over to Town and Country over in Gorham.
Yeah.
That was, I spoke to Cal, he remembered being at the meetings.
Well, that's right, because he was a dealer up in Maine, wasn't he?
Yes,
So he was part of the New England group?
Yes, he was.
Yeah.
And so I just was talking to the building, and our subsidiaries were Ashland, Maine, did I think it is?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so
Cool, yeah, that was pretty much it. If did you get anything else you can think of? Any final thoughts? Or?
it was a wonderful place for me to spend 21 years until we were bought out.
Wow, okay. And who bought Timberland?
Chadwick Mayros.
Okay. Wow, and what year would that have been?
19,
In the 80s or
no,
earlier than that?
I should memorize that. Of course, we also sold our dealership with Bombardier prior to that.
Yeah.
And then Chadwick Mayros bought us out. They were interested in the logging equipment. And I'm not good one at dates.
That's all right.
In school, when I went to school, my history teacher specified, you don't need to know the dates, you just need to know where to go find them.
Yeah.
I can't think of anything else I would be.
Sure. No, that was funny. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I did think that today, it's the first time I've been to this group, because my husband and I, we each had our own group, but I wasn't involved in it. But they are a wonderful group, and I love it. They were people that were in competition with each other, and yet they're best friends and really support each other. I thought that was the type of thing people should be still doing today.
I agree. It's nice to see that, yeah. Well, great.
I guess that's it.
Well, thank you, Betty. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm Chip Elwood, and I got inducted today into the Snowmobile Hall of Fame, and I feel as though it's a great honor, and I really appreciate all the hard work that people have done to be able to give us this opportunity and stuff. If I remember correctly, I think they said this was the 5th year they've been doing it, and a lot of people there that I knew, and just some great memories seeing these people again, you know, and from back in racing, because it's been a little while, you know, and I don't know much more than that. My family's here with me, and some good friends came all the way up, and I just one of the best things in snowmobiling is for me was I made lifelong friends, and a lot of us have become family.
Wow.
So I mean, you can't beat that with anything else, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, for sure.
And I just made the comments there at the induction about my dad, and how he had the opportunity, or really had the opportunity, but he couldn't do it because of my grandfather and the farm and everything else, to most likely end up being a professional baseball player. So I just hope that he was able to live his dreams through me, you know, and all that I was very fortunate to be able to achieve, you know. And he got to come to a few races, but not very many, because somebody had to be at the farm, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
And I don't know, I mean, there's too much more that I can think of, you know,
Sure.
other than I appreciate everybody, and I hope they keep this thing going, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Now, are there any memories you can think of, maybe at a specific race where something happened, or there's kind of a story of something crazy that happened, or
I was just telling them the story in there. As people, whoever may see this, realizes that Ivan Duhamel was a Ski-Doo factory racer, and we were in Boonville, and we were in the 340 class in the feature, and he had a tendency to, let's just say he put it all out there. He'd win do anything he could to win.
Wow.
And so I, going into the third corner, my friend Kenny Youngs had told me to watch out for him, and sure as heck, he was passing me on the right in the corner, and I let off just a little bit so he couldn't run over my skis, and then I went on the bank, and now he's trying to stay on the inside, and I'm just whipping on that bank like this. When he got in the fourth corner, I went out, he just went out like this, and I went right under him and beat him by 3 sled lengths at the start-finish line. And I'll tell you, there had been about 15,000 people or more at Moonville, and boy, that was a big thing for me, because
in front of all those people?
everybody was just a cheering, you know.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, so that was neat, you know.
Yeah. Any other stories
You know, and I was blessed, like I said, I was blessed to have two geniuses for racing mechanics, Everett Regal and Bill Abel. I mean, there was only one other person that I knew of back in those days that would be in their category, and that was Richie Porter at the factory, and he actually even helped me at one race one time. So I got to be really good friends with a lot of people, the factory guys and everything else. As a matter of fact, when I got hurt so bad in Bangor, Arctic and Polaris, both the teams came in to see me the next morning, and they let him in the intensive care unit to see me before they had to go back.
Wow.
So that was pretty neat. And then Arctic I was up there for 11 days, and Arctic flew their Learjet from Thief River Falls, Minnesota, stopped in Syracuse, picked up my dad, and then flew to Bangor, picked me up, took me back to Syracuse Hospital. So I laid there in bed in traction for 13 total weeks.
Wow.
So, little to say, that wasn't no fun, but
yeah,
it is what it is, you know.
Yeah.
So.
Now, talking about Team Able, and talking about camaraderie, we were talking about camaraderie before and the friendships you have. Any memories about camaraderie with them, or any fond memories of Team Able as a group, as your friends?
We, like I said, we became family. We weren't friends. We became family. I mean, we're so close that it's crazy. And any event, or especially if somebody passes or whatever, we're all there for each other. Always have been and always will be. And I mean, we've had some crazy times, you know, racing. I'll tell you, one time I think we were going to Bangor or Lewiston, Maine, one or the other. We had our old bus, and that was back in the 70s when they had the gas crunch.
Yeah.
And you can only get gas on odd and even days or your license plate number.
Yeah.
And so we had two 55-gallon drums of gas in the back of the bus, took a snowmobile gas line and run it along the outside and put it into the gas tank hole, and it would run just right. Well, Ronnie down in the dip in the rest area, sucking on the hose to get it to siphon, right? Well, kind of stupid me. I see the air bubbles going up the line right now. So then I pulled it out of the barrel and went, and I'll tell you what, he was gassed, trust me. Well, there's another funny part to this whole thing is that on the way home, this is back, I can't remember, it was in the 70s, and when they first came out with 16-ounce Pepsi cans.
Yeah.
And, you know, they make pop. Ronnie's driving the bus on the way back, and I think he said to Bill, Bill, it's dark. He said, well, give me one of those Pepsis, would you? So Bill reaches up on the bench we got in there and gets one, and I heard it pop. Give it to Ronnie. He goes blub, 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 and it was Wynn's Friction Lube.
You said,
you guys are trying to kill me, he says. Oh, I don't know. We've had some great times. I mean, we've had some disappointing times, too, at different races that we should have won and didn't.
Sure.
you know, when you, like me at Boonville, say I had a Rondeck Cup, I'm almost 2/3 of a lap ahead. And I lose 13 cleats off my track.
Oh.
I finally get around on the last lap, and Ogdemine was catching me all the time, and he finally passed me just before I got to start-finish line.
Well,
That was disappointing.
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
Yeah.
You know, it is what it is.
Sure. And you went through all that together, the wins, the losses, the heartaches, and the heart,
Oh, yeah.
and the celebrations all together as a family.
All together.
That's
yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Cool.
Good, very good people, I'm telling you.
Good.
All the mechanics and really good people.
Really tight team, tight family.
Yeah, yes, exactly.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's what we become, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool deal. Well, yeah, I appreciate your time today.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
All right.
The southern end of the trail system. And what's great about this property is it is on the trail system. In other words, you can park your rig outside your door here at this property, get on it in the morning and take off. You're on quarter 5. You don't
Right
have
on
to
the trail.
get to quarter 5. You're on it.
Exactly.
And in addition to that, the configuration of the motel, which you can see, has the parking for the snow machines, for the trailers, for their trucks. That patio is opened up. It's all available for them to park right pretty much in front of their door.
Yeah.
In addition to that, we made sure that we were noted on the trail map system as a parking location. So even if you're not staying here, you can park your rig here and take off.
Nice.
We also have room out back, a pretty good sized field that can probably accommodate, I don't know, maybe 10 machines, 10 rigs. And that's an area that we park their snow machine trailers and so on, and they can stay there, either if they're guests of ours for multiple days, or if they're just going to park and ride and then load up and go back home. So we have a way to accommodate probably, I mean, my competition, they're good people, but they don't have the parking capability. They're not on the trail. So we are really set up for the snowmobiling.
Yeah.
Plus we have some other options to, I think, accommodate those folks that really want to make a season of snow machining, in that we have a number of rooms that are available as seasonals,
Yeah.
in that we can, person can make this their condo or their camp. They have a camp in the North Country. Basically, you rent the room for the month, it's your room.
Yeah.
Or through the season, but I mean, a month at a time, it's your room. You bring up all your stuff, all your equipment, all your clothes, keep it in the room. Throughout the week, it's there. You get off work Thursday night, you get in your car, drive up here, bam, and start. So, you don't have to hook up and pull your equipment and unload. It's all here.
Yeah.
So it's just an option. That's not going to work for everybody. But there are some people who will find that to be a quick and easy way to have their own property in the North Country.
Yeah, for the right person, that's a really
Yeah.
good situation.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
we have a number of rooms that are set up for seasonals. We have the parking, we have the space, we're on the quarter 5, and most importantly, Ruby and I love snow cheaters.
Nice.
We had our first season
Yeah.
in this hospitality industry last year, and they were our favorite group. They've got great energy, they're out in the day having a good time, and they come back and maybe a little bit of circus water, and they can tell you the stories,
Yes.
and it's fantastic. So we had a good time with those groups, and we had a couple of groups that came twice throughout the season, and we're all friends now.
Right.
Nice.
Well, and the thing about this property, first of all, for me, historically, this is the epicenter of Lancaster.
Yeah.
And a lot of these fellows that, and women that were here today actually stayed here back in the day.
Yeah.
And so we're just trying to give that back to the community, and the snowmobilers allow us to do that because this is like ground zero for
sure.
snowmobiling.
Yeah.
So we feel like we should be an intimate part of that.
Yeah.
So that we're reaching out to them in any way we can, making them
Yeah.
part of our
Reciprocal
family.
situation.
Absolutely.
Wonderful.
Right.
And they can walk to town, and our downtown is up and coming, and they can walk to things, and they don't have to.
Right.
They don't have to, drive down the street or walk down the street a half mile.
Right.
It's just a few hundred feet, and you're
And
right
you're in the
there.
middle of all the
Yeah.
action. The brew pub, the award-winning brew pub,
Yeah.
that's actually voted 3rd year in a row as the #1 brew pub in the state.
Yeah.
It's
Yes,
literally, I
yes,
can throw a rock, just about. After a couple of beers, I probably could throw the rock out there. But anyway, the fact is, it's right down the street. The bakery and breakfast restaurant right down the street. The art gallery right down the street. Literally, you would not get in your car. You would walk to those things. They're that close.
Yeah.
And so having all that, having Lancaster in the palm of your hand, connecting to a property that had a great history with snow machining, and to really re-emphasize what you said, this is where it started.
That's true.
Exactly.
This is where it started,
Yeah.
And I think we need to reclaim that.
Yeah.
The same way we're trying to reclaim this motel.
Sure.
I think we need to reclaim that history. I think it's gone out into the world, and we're sort of forgotten.
Yeah.
And I'd like to see us, back on the map for that again.
Yeah, and people connect their memories to this, and it's a way to reconnect their memories
Right,
and
right.
keep it alive. And yeah,
Exactly.
Absolutely, that's
Exactly.
right. And so that's what we're trying to do with this motel in general.
Yeah.
But this is one important aspect of it that we can tap into and relight that continue, which is fantastic.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's cool. And I'm sure it's well received because all the memories and history here is just everyone loves
Yeah,
it.
you
know?
notice that what
if
we
you were part of it,
experienced
it's,
today.
it's a fire that continues to burn in your mind.
And they did
Yeah.
have a vintage snowmobile race here this past winter, and maybe that's something that we can start doing, being known for these types of vintage
Yeah,
races.
being in the loop on
or-
that, associated
Yeah,
with
and
it.
we had a
want to
Grand
do
Prix. We could bring the Grand Prix back. I mean,
Yeah.
there's so many dedicated people. We just need to figure out how to get everybody together on the same page so that we can all benefit in our community.
Right.
So you can start seeing some economic energy from it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And in terms of the motel, I mean, our effort has been well received in the community. This was an important property for the community for years.
Yeah.
And it was somewhat disconnected in the last 10, 15 years due to circumstance. But now,
Yeah.
as we reconnect to the community, we have a tremendous support, which is actually almost emotional for me.
Yeah.
These people being my neighbors, have come out and helped us in many ways and support us. And so you've got a property with new floors, new mattresses, new cable, new TVs, new Wi-Fi. And so these are things that make this a comfortable stay. You're not going to get French soap or anything.
Sure.
But it's a great stay for a snow machine weekend.
For sure, yeah.
Yeah.
All the modern things you would want.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right,
Absolutely.
Media bar.
That's right, the media bar, and you saw the actual bar coming back to life.
Yeah.
It'll be a month or two, and then you can, I guess, sort of embellish your stories with a little bit of fuel.
Absolutely.
In the
The stories flow better after a couple.
They
Yeah.
do, that's right. Very
Fish
good.
gets bigger.
Yeah, the fish gets bigger, exactly.
Very good. Ice fishing gets.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
That's
that's pretty much what we're about.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Yeah, I appreciate it. Today on VintageSnowmobileLovers.com, we're in Lancaster, New Hampshire at Crane's Snowmobile Museum. And our good friends Midge Rosebrook and Paul Crane are just about to give us a tour of the museum. How you doing, guys?
Good, good.
Good. Before we get started, Paul is the first person in the U.S. ever to ride a snowmobile. Do I understand that correctly?
I skidoo.
A skidoo, okay.
Skidoo only. I
Skidoo.
wasn't the first to ride a snow machine. I was the first one to ride a skidoo.
Nice.
American, and first American to ride a skidoo
Nice.
in Canada and here.
Excellent. Not many people can lay claim to that.
I don't believe so.
That's amazing. Awesome.
We'll just start down this row here.
All right.
Everybody can understand what just by looking at them, what they are. So we'll go down this row here first. And then on the end wall here, we have some of the clothing. Most of them are practically mine in the family that rode things.
Nice. So these are yours from back in the day, you and your family?
A lot of them are. I would say that 80% of them are.
Nice.
And at the end here is a Scatmobile, which is rare. It's got 3 real big bloom tires. It was made out in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and I met the guy years ago, and he was driving a Stanley steamer up his driveway, and I told him I just picked one of those up and I'm going to start a museum someday, and he said, I'm going to give you something, young man, something that nobody has. My first sign that was put on the factory, and it's a plywood sign. It's a little rough, but I was going to cut the bottom part off, or it was rotten, but I just figured it would lose the value of it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Wow, that is awesome. That's quite a gift to receive.
Yeah.
Outstanding. Cool.
Then I got patches on the back wall.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Patches on the back wall. Yeah. And
See if I can get in a little closer on that.
And up on the rack over here, we got some of the small snow machines.
I remember the kitty cat from back in the day.
Yep. Then we got the 1926 Model T snowmobile, which is a foot narrower than the average snowmobile. And if you look at the running board, it says snowmobile right on it,
Really?
which is rare.
Right here on the step.
Yeah.
Wow. And what year was this, Paul? You said 1920 something?
1926 is the plate.
Oh, yes, yeah. Wow.
I usually give rides when the snow's deep. I haven't done it this year yet, but I will be.
Nice. And then some more mini sleds up top.
Sleds on the top. Then over in the corner here, we have some more mini snows plus a couple old sleighs.
Nice. And then these are some of the early mass-produced ski-doos?
This is a 61 Skidoo with the wooden skis. This is a 61 Skidoo with the replaceable steel skis, because the wooden ones we'd go out in the field and we'd break them.
Wow. Now that first sled that you rode, was it similar to this one, or
Just like that.
just like this one?
Yeah.
Wow.
But it was a 1960.
1960. Okay.
I have one, but I haven't got it over here yet.
Okay.
A 1960. Skidoo Elite. I sold those, and they sold in 1995.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
That one has got 200 and something miles on it.
Unreal. That's a nice shape. And I think they stopped making those in, what, 2005 or something?
They started
The Elite?
2004 and 5, I think they made a silver one.
Yeah. A much more modern looking one. Was that the last year, do you know?
Yeah.
It was, okay. I like that TNT. Little silver.
Lux Nordic.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Now I see a shift lever on that. Did that have reverse?
Yes, reverse. Yeah.
Nice. And did it have like a low gear for
No, that's just the right.
just reverse? Okay.
But it's mint. It's only got 200 and something miles on it.
Nice. A buddy of mine growing up had a silver bullet like that.
Then we have the 64 tin cab motor ski,
Wow.
which they didn't make very many of them. Then a 65 motor ski. Then the racing motor ski, which is a 634 Hurricane. And then this here was a 500 racing sled. That apparently, so I've been told, the factory had it. Yeah. Motor ski factory had it.
Wow. That's cool.
And then the Zephyr, which is all original.
Wow. 1970, yeah. I remember these Nuvics back in the day. My father's friend had one just like that.
Then a pink motor ski that was made from a friend of mine for his daughter.
Wow. That is cool. You don't see those every day.
No.
It's got some ski spreaders on there too.
Yeah.
Keep it stable.
His daughter wanted it pink.
Nice.
And this here is a rare 340 motor ski bullet.
Wow.
And the 340 Sonic, Supersonic Pro sled. Then the racing Northway. They only made 21 of them.
21. Wow.
Sleds. Yeah.
That's a real big hood. Does that mean there's a real big engine underneath? Or?
Yeah, it's a 440.
440, yeah. Nice. And this racing cat.
Then a 76 Snow Pro.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's one of the cooler looking sleds ever to be on the snow, I think.
And then the Husky.
Yes, yeah.
Of course, the RV, Skidoo RV that they raced in 75.
Nice. Those are awesome.
Then the Snow Cruiser, which was a Rapido 500, which, as far as I know, there's only 4 of those in existence.
4 of those. Wow. That's amazing.
There's one in New Brunswick, I understand. I've seen that one. And I understand there's one up in Peterborough where they came from. And I don't know if the one's still in New Jersey or not, but there was one down there.
Nice. We had one like this when I was a kid. It was a consumer model, though, not the Starfire. That was fast. Even the consumer model, the 250, was really fast.
Oh, yeah.